It's time for the Hunting for Gold at Walmart Aftermath. Oh, just had an earthquake. Before we get started, just wanted to say to Joseph Newhouse, absolutely right. Coffee is the nectar of the gods, and this is my daily prescription. Let's hope we don't run out. And to SCDHL, yeah, we didn't find the gold. And it's not the one you're talking about. It isn't furniture polish, but a good guess. But when we find it, you'll be the first to know, as well as all the rest of you. Anyway, some of the things we did find in our little chopping trip was active and quick rise yeast. These are things at the last lockdown that just eventually disappeared here. And keep in mind, we're in a community where I'm from that we're kind of protected in this little valley, and our supply chain seems to not be out as much. Like, we had toilet paper pretty much the entire time. It got down to the one ply, whoops, where'd my finger go, kind of toilet paper. However, we had it. You could wrap it a couple times around there, if you know what I mean. So anyway, some of the other things that we run out on, of course, as you saw in the video, was it looks like we're running a little low on sugars and flours, rice and beans, the usual things. Meats, we're getting kind of thin, but not as thin as some places. According to Helen Dixon, in her area, we're actually quite well stocked compared to her. That being said, again, our valley is kind of protected from that, so that's a good thing. And so keep that in mind. In your area, you may find that you're running out of things that other areas aren't. So don't hesitate to call on your friends in your groups, in your mags, mutual assistant groups, and things like that to help you maybe ship something, you know, offer to pay them for their supplies and the shipping if you really, it's something you need badly that you're out of. Of course, perishables, that might not be so doable, or things that are really heavy, but things like yeast definitely is something that can be shipped to somebody. Even sugar, even though it's got some weight to it. And so, you know, of course, where Helen's at, I'm not sure I can ship it there. That's a long way across the ocean. But it is something for us to consider, that other countries might be feeling this more than we are. And it's something to take note of, because we could very well be there, which means they know how to deal with it sooner than we do, quite possibly. So, that being said, let's get into what we did find. One of the things we also found was, of course, bleach. Now, bleach is something that, of course, everybody goes, yeah, you know, that's always around, that kind of thing. But we actually started running out of bleach here too. It got really thin, as well as things like Lysol sprays, disinfectants, cleaning supplies, things like that, especially like the flushable wipes, that kind of thing. So there are some uses for bleach too, which is something good to keep on hand. You don't want to keep too much because it doesn't have a huge shelf life. However, if it's kept cold, it has a longer shelf life, and capped tightly. You know, with bleach, you can purify water. And that's an important thing to know. If you don't have a filter, if you're really needing water, you can even take some pretty nasty water. And I've got some notes here. Your ratios that you want to use are as follows. First, you want to boil the water, if you can. Bring it up to a boil, rolling boil, let it cool in its container, and then pour it into the container you're going to keep it in. Then, once it's cool, you want to take, if it doesn't taste quite really great, now you don't want to taste it yet, of course, but I was told that if you put 2 pinches of salt per gallon of water, or per liter, excuse me, so that'd be maybe 2, 4, 6, 8 pinches of salt. It depends on I'd start small, and then you can always build back up. However, that can make your water taste somewhat normal. or not quite so funny tasting from, say, bleach and the chemicals and whatnot. Then you add the bleach, and you're not adding a lot of bleach. There's two kinds of bleaches too. You want to be sure to look at the back. You want at least 6 to 8% bleach, or actually it's 6 to 8% sodium hypochlorite. And you want to keep it at room temperature before you add it into your water. So get it up to room temperature, and add 8 drops if it's 6% per gallon, or 6 drops per 8% per gallon. And if the water is dirty or cloudy or questionable, double that amount, and let it sit for 30 minutes with the lid open. That'll help kind of air out some of that after you've mixed it up a little bit. And make sure to get the cap and threads and stuff wet. One thing that I learned is if it's a container you're going to be using a lot, don't tighten it down all the way. Only tighten it down partial as you're shaking it and kind of have it over the lawn and whatnot, because of course it has bleach in it. But shake it up and let it get around those threads and stuff, and then tighten it down after you've let it air out. That will help decontaminate the threads and whatnot that you're going to be using. If you're ever in question after that, but you need that water, you can always dose it again. But I would follow the formula that I gave just then. One of the other things we did find, of course, we didn't find liquid gold, but we did find white gold, which this is something that flat disappeared real quick. And this would have been your preppers that were coming after this at some point, probably in the beginning and then all the way through. This is isopropyl alcohol. The isopropyl alcohol, you want to try to get 70% to 90% isopropyl alcohol if you can. They have 50%, but it's not as usable. That's always good to get if you have nothing else, because it is a good disinfectant. But you want to get 70 to 90%. And so I found this big boy up there after I stopped the video, of course. But it wasn't cheap. This was about $39. So, you know, but this is an awful lot. You can do a lot with this isopropyl alcohol. Now, you can do things like make your own disinfectant wipes. You can use, you know, old t-shirts and whatnot, any kind of old cotton cloths and stuff, and soak them in this, and then kind of just wring them out a little bit and then throw them into a Ziploc bag. Now, those would be wipes that you could reuse. You could use them, wipe once, throw it in another bucket, and then run them through the laundry, because the isopropyl alcohol is going to evaporate once it's outside of the Ziploc bag. So keep that in mind. You can make wipes out of it. You can use it to disinfect, you know, surgical equipment if you need to, or just about anything, by putting it onto there. If you're having to take injections and so forth for medications, it's good to use to sterilize your needles, or to remember that the ampule that you're poking into also should be sterilized with some alcohol as well, because you do not want to get an infection if SHTF is here. So another thing that can be done, because you don't have to buy it in as big a thing, there were some of these little ones. Now what you can do with the big one is you can mix it with aloe vera gel, or even the liquid aloe vera. It'll just be less thick, and make your own hand sanitizer with it. You know, your ratio for that is you want 70 to 90%, 90% being the best. And you can just go 2/3 cups of isopropyl alcohol to 1/3 cup of aloe vera gel, or the liquid aloe vera as well will work. It'll just be runnier, so be careful with it. And then you can add essential oils if you have those, for smell, basically. It's not necessary in any way, but some people like a nicer smell. I know I do. So some of the other things that we saw in there that we ended up getting. On this trip, we ended up getting this Saul Survival Outdoor Emergency Bivy. I've never gotten one of these before, but they had a good deal on them, and they were on sale. And, you know, as you can see, it's kind of like an emergency blanket sleeping bag. So it's a little stronger than your emergency blankets. And as you can see, it's not very big. I mean, this is something you could fit in a, it would be really great in an escape and invade bag, or a little small escape and evade bag that you can carry. That's something we'll do a future video on. This would be good in your larger first aid kits, your larger IFAKs, things like that. This is something that could save your life if you're out, especially in a wilderness environment and you get stuck out overnight, which here in Oregon, that happens at least once a year. Somebody, car breaks down, gets stuck in the snow, whatever, and they don't make it. And that's really sad because all it takes is a little bit of preparedness, and that can be avoided. I know in my personal rigs, which is another thing we'll do some videos on, I have, even in my kids' rigs, have, well, what we call oh shit boxes, but for the most, you can call them bug out boxes or whatever, that are specifically designed to have in your rigs at all times, that will get you out of most situations and can actually sustain your life for up to 72 hours or longer if you're frugal with it. So that is one thing that we picked up there. Another thing that we picked up was magazines. Magazines. Okay, so right now, if you're not aware, our possible future president-elect has got 2 bills that are in effect right now that are going to be submitted, and he is trying to, of course, outlaw certain kinds of firearms, as well as high capacity, or like we like to call them, normal capacity magazines. And this is something that when that happens, or say Inauguration Day, these are liable to start disappearing. And the last time that happened in the Obama era, well, it was a bummer. These started disappearing, and then they started being $50 a piece or more. So right now, $9.99. Get them while you can for everything you own. Okay, so here's one thing that I wanted to show you guys. This is something, it's called Roctane Energy Gel. This is great stuff. This stuff here has 100 calories, just this little thing. It has, let's see, total carbs are 21 grams, 8% of your daily needed. Let's see, 6 grams of sugar, has 30 milligrams of calcium, 125 milligrams of sodium. So that's an electrolyte and so forth. So that is good for your survival situations. It has some essential amino acids. It's a blend of different amino acids in there as well. And it has some interesting uses. This I keep in all of my escape and evade bag, my IFAK, my first aid kits, everything like that. This is a high energy type of gel. So this is something that if you come across somebody who's having, say, a diabetic crisis, you can, even if they're out of it, you can kind of squirt this in their mouth and let it kind of just get into their system in order to help them with that. If they need a pickup like that, or yourself, if you're running low, you need a boost of energy. It also has caffeine in it. They do have ones that are decaffeinated as well, but this one has caffeine in it, and I believe it was 35 milligrams of caffeine. So it could give you a little pick-me-up. So these are good to have, and as you can see, oops, I'm throwing things around. Get that. Anyway, as you can see, they're really small, really thin. These go well in packages, and they last a long time. They also have, if you're a nature type person, they have these in a honey base as well. So it's more of a natural honey. It doesn't last quite as long though. They have more of an expiration date than these do. These pretty much last almost indefinitely. Not quite, but almost. So let's see, what is next? So some of the things that people brought up were water filtration. As I showed you in the video, we had these AquaPure tabs, and as you can see, they've got these little packets. These are great, super thin. Take, you know, 4 of these tablets. I think it's 2 per liter. So, you know, you can shoot that right there. Well, you know what that looks like, that you keep in your wallet. Come on, guys, you know it. Telling you, these right here, if you're out and just have a container, or can make a container and need water, this will keep you from getting things like giardia, which is not fun, and other types of you know, parasites and pathogens that may be in the water. Good idea to have these. They're super easy. Now, the other style that you saw in there was the ones that have the 2 bottles, the old school. One's iodine and the other one takes kind of the flavor of the iodine away. That's more of a pain than you think. But again, the technique I told you guys about loosening the lid when you take the water, shake it, then tighten down the lid after it airs out for 30 minutes or so, that's something you always want to do, because if you're going to take that water and put it to your lips, the last thing you want to do is have the water from you filling it up on the outside get into your mouth. That could be all it takes if you're not lucky. So keep that tip in mind. And these are fairly inexpensive there. I think they were $6, $7 maybe for a big old box of 20 quarts this will do. So that's something that's quick. Now, something else, if you want something that's more of a, I don't have a container, but I want something to, we all know what these are. We've all heard of them. These are the Lifestraw water filtration systems. These are really a good idea. Just keep this end out of the dirty water, this end in the dirty water. And of course, not super dirty water would be preferable, but in a pinch, if you need it, these are a handy thing to have. They will keep you going till you can get home. If you can find a water source, and you don't have to have a container. So that's what makes these really handy. Plus they're really small. This is about the size of something else cylindrical you might have in your kit, but these are definitely handy. Now, I had some people ask about the water filtration systems. This is the next step up. This would be the Sawyer Mini, and the Sawyer Mini is, all the Sawyer products seem to do about 100,000 gallons. That's quite a bit. This essentially is just a bigger version of this. This right here, you can use it also to, of course, fill up bladders, bottles. You can even use it in a gravity system if you set it up ahead of time. This is a really good idea. But more specific to that, they have the actual gravity system that comes with a bladder, I believe, in there, and you can hang it from the bladder. Or I've actually, and I'll have a video coming up of this, hook this up to a bucket gravity system that will do 5 gallons at a time. You can either have it so it drains into another bucket and you can walk away and let it do its thing, or you can have it so it's hooked up so you can just open the valve when you need it, let it go into your cup out of a 5-gallon bucket. But these are really handy. This, to let you know, about $50, about $30, no, yeah, $29, $20. So as you can see, not super expensive, and definitely something that is really needed and really handy. Now, when we went into the first aid aisle, I showed you some things. And what I picked up while I was there, some of this Next Care. This stuff is a waterproof, absolutely waterproof tape. It's stretchable, it sticks like a son of a gun. And as you guys all know, especially you hardworking ladies and guys, but we all know the ladies really work a little bit harder. These are really handy because, as you know, it's nothing more frustrating than putting on those cheap Band-Aids and they don't stick. This will stick. You can count on it. The Next Care absolutely waterproof tape, they call it. Good stuff. Put a little piece of gauze in the center or cotton and you got yourself a Band-Aid. A good Band-Aid. So, this is a big one. Bleed stop. You should have an IFAK kit. If SHTF hits the fan, there's a likelihood that you might accidentally get a hole or two. And it's not fun. And you don't want to stick your finger in it and just keep it in there forever. So there are some things you can use, female products that work really well for plugging those holes. And some of this stuff. If you have a gash or something like that that doesn't need a tourniquet but has quite a bit of bleeding, and you can get it with some, say, a pressure bandage. This is stuff I keep in my IFAC or my blood control, bleeding control kits, which of course I'll do a video on to break them down more. But this is a powder that you basically put onto the wound before applying your pressure bandage to the wound. You know, provided it's not something that has an artery or something like that. That's something you'd have to control with a tourniquet. Or if it's excessive and it just keeps bleeding through, you might need to apply a tourniquet. But this stuff right here really is pretty effective. It's an absolute mess, but it will save your life in a lot of cases. So this is something, $4 or $5 for a pack of, this is a 2-pack, so there's 2 application packets in here. They also have a 4-pack, and I think it's like $8. So this is something to really think about putting into your first aid kits or your escape and evade or your IFACs. And then these are just handy. I showed these in the aisle. Get them at Walmart, couple, $3, $4. I think they were, no, about $3. I think they were, maybe a little under. This is your burn care kit, and it has your ointments and your gauze pad and some tape and some burn gel and stuff like that. It's a nice plastic little container. It can fit into a kit. Blister care. If you're going to be out in the woods, your get home bag should have this in it, because you might be walking a few miles to get home. This is definitely something. It basically has moleskin bandages in there for where you would get blisters, and they're self-adhesive. Itch and bite relief. This is always nice if it's summertime or you're in a real swampy type locale, or you just have lots of mosquitoes and whatnot like that. This has some different kinds. There's some wipes and some gel in there for itch and bite relief. And then, of course, sun care. This is something that's really important that people these days aren't thinking a whole lot about. And I don't know why, because if you're paying attention right now, the UVA and UVB have gone basically off the charts, and the UVC is just making it to the ground. It never used to make it to the ground. UVC is getting through from our sun and hitting our ground level. That's really bad. And if you haven't noticed, go take a look. Have you ever wondered why your car seems to be fading faster? The paint on it, like the clear coat. Why some things that you leave outside that you used to be able to leave outside, but if you leave it out for a week, the sun destroys it, like buckets. Leave a bucket out the next time in the summer and see how long it lasts. It won't last. My bucket garden, I had to put reflective bubble wrap around them just to keep the buckets in good shape, because the sun was just, within a week, was fading it, and within 2 weeks was cracking it and destroying it. So something to think about. You want to protect your skin as well. The best way, of course, if UVC is getting through is you really need to cover up with long sleeve shirts and stuff like that, but you got to do something to cut it down. So what's next here? So speaking of emergency equipment, let me get this here. Some other things that were on that aisle. Emergency poncho, under $2. These things, you'd think they're cheap until you need one. Then they're the best things ever. Go to Disneyland, ride the water rides, see who's laughing. It will be me if you don't have one of these. A head net, another $2 item, costs nothing. Simple, squishes into any bag, takes up little to no room. You don't leave it in the box, of course, but this can keep those bugs out of your face, out of your eyes, which, let's say it's SHTF and there's rotting things around and the zombies are running. Well, there's going to be flies. And we've all seen these little emergency blankets. If you've never had to use one, be thankful. But if you've ever used one, you are thankful, because these really do work. I don't get it. I know reflection of the heat and everything, but it's still thin. These also are great if you have to build a, oops, was that an earthquake? If you have to build an emergency structure, you can use this along a wall that you can build out of sticks that you drive into the ground and cross members, something we'll probably do a video on. But these work great. You can weave this into there as well if you have a good shelter built and you don't need it, and it will reflect the heat from the fire that you build against that wall area to reflect it back to you. Just don't get it too close. But it does work really good for a lot of different situations. You can also tear, it doesn't hurt to have a couple of these. You can tear it into strips, lay it on the ground, 3 rows, 3 strips. That signals to the above that somebody needs help. So, and it's reflective. So this is something that's really good to keep for that. I saw this, maybe $6 or $7. It's an emergency shelter. What's really great about this is you can put it up, and if there's not an absolute storm going, this is really good for keeping the rain off. You have your little bivvy, you get inside. It saves you time, which saves you energy, which saves the amount of food that you use. So that being said, this works really well. And then as you see the opening in here, you can put a wall against the other side and build a wall in a V out in the front here, and it builds your little fire in the center of that V, and it will reflect that heat back into that bivvy. Just don't get this too close and keep your fire low, and it will give you enough heat to get through the night. And this is something that I put in my kids' car kit. This is probably the most expensive thing out of those, about 11 bucks. But the thing is it's not just a emergency blanket. It's heavy duty. It's a tarp. They can use it to get under their cars. They can use it to signal with because it's orange, and be found from the air if they're keeping it around them to reflect their body heat in. This is just like your industrial space blanket or emergency blanket. So this is something that I put in their car kits so that, because they're not going to say, this takes up a lot of room in a pack, but definitely worth it in a car kit. So let's see, what does that leave? A couple just quick tools that I found real quick. Emergency mirror, you gotta have to have a way to signal. And of course there are other things like whistles and stuff like that, but this was like a buck something or $1, I think. So this is something that is just next to nothing that you can put to start your kit with that will give you a way to signal for a distance, quite a distance, especially if the sun's out. Sometimes it helps if you take and just get a little hole in the center so you can look through it and aim to who you're flashing at and go like that. Can you go like that? There you go, very good. All right, and then last but not least, we have the little card tools. I know, you're laughing already. You're laughing, but I've actually used these, well, to open beer. But besides that, I've actually used them for other things, and they're just handy to keep in your wallet and take up no room. So there's a lot of things you can do with these. And for something that cost $1 or $2, I think they were under $2, this is a lifesaver if you have nothing. But you should have something. This was literally $4. Yes, it's cheap, but it's cool camo. Can you see it? Can you see it? That's right. It's camo, so don't set it down. You'll never find it again. But it's always a plus to have a pair of pliers like this with cutters and knives and things like that on it. Because if you're setting up snares or something and you need to get food, or you got to fix a hose on your rig to get you home, these are, you'll use it a lot, trust me. Now they make better ones, of course, if you want, and with more money comes better quality. So that was our aftermath. It's a high tech. But I do want to address some of the things that were said during the videos that I haven't already addressed from some people. JMS brought up the case that you can get, or the fact that you can get the yeast in 1-pound bricks, and it's more affordable, plus it's vacuum sealed so it lasts longer, that's a great idea. I haven't seen those, but if you do see them, you might want to just get yourself one. Let's see, James, and oh, one more thing I forgot to mention. Yes, I was able to find it. Ammo. If you see ammo, buy ammo, even if you don't have a gun. You want to know why? Because you can use this to barter with. This is worth gold right now because no one has it. I mean, literally, these were the only boxes. And I didn't get these on just one trip. These are boxes I've gotten on my last 4 or 5 trips. But 9mm, very popular. 380, great round, very popular carry gun. Somebody, if you're looking at getting a gun, something you might think about is you tend to find more 357 and 10mm especially, because it's not something everybody buys, but both super effective rounds. These are the big boys, and that's why they're usually sitting there, is because most people are getting smaller things. This is something though that people will be looking for. These were the only 2 boxes and I got them. So think about that when you're out making a firearms decision. Is do you want to buy something that everybody has, or something that maybe is not exotic but less purchased? But whenever you see ammo, get it, and especially 22 ammo. And I don't have any here to show you because I left it downstairs, but there were 2 boxes of 22 ammo, and they were a little more expensive, but I went ahead and got them because, like James M says, you know, 22 is very underrated and overlooked firearm. It is one of the best survival rounds you can get. I definitely give one into each of my kids' kits when they turn 18. I put a little wire, little Badger 22 in there. Costs next to nothing, fits in there, takes up no room, and it's something that they could get dinner with. They could protect themselves with if they had to. They could sound for a signal with. Also, the 22 is one of the easiest to suppress. If the SHTF comes, you'll probably make yourself one of those. They're very easy, and there are certain ways you can do it online right now, but I wouldn't. I'm not advising anybody to do that. You definitely want to go through your BATF and get your $200 tax stamp and get yourself a can the right way. But if SHTF comes, well, you know, grab yourself a potato. Just kidding. And just so you guys know, I'm not giving any advice here, legal or medical, just suggestions on things to look for. So, but the 22 definitely is something that you can carry 1,000 rounds in your pocket where you can't in something else. You have an ammo can. So it's something that you can get on the cheap. Even now, figuratively speaking, it's more expensive than it ever was, but it is definitely cheap to stockpile. And having something that fires to get food, to protect, is better than nothing. So that is something. And, you know, just so that you guys know, they do make ammo that is 1,600 feet per second in a 22. That is pretty darn good. That's moving. So that is something that could actually ultimately be used for self-protection fairly well. So unless it has body armor, then, well, you better have good aim. But anyway, I wanted to say Domestic Gangsta. Nope, didn't find any liquid gold, but I'm going to keep searching because you said it was there. Granny C, love to go shopping with me? Love to go shopping with you. Absolutely. We'd have a lot of fun. Did you see how people were kind of weirded out and keeping an eye on me? I would keep an eye on me too. Let's see, Linda Ann. Needs a water filter on a popcorn budget. I gave you some good ideas right there. Not that expensive. Good ways to do it. The pills are the cheapest, of course. Let's see, Andrea Cole. Oh, she's been buying yeast and staples for every month, something little, for the last year. And she's got quite a it was quite easy to set things away that way. That's something to think about. You don't have to go right out and spend a huge paycheck on gathering all these things, just like this, just a few things here and there at each visit. I'm not sure what she's doing with staples. I'm trying to still figure out how you use the little tiny wire. Do you separate them? Or do you use the whole roll? Or are you like shooting people with them? I don't know. You might want to get back to me on that. But let's see. Ninja Scout ammo. As you can see, I got mine, baby. That's right. But he says they hide it in the back room. So if you want to get your ammo, you might have to get a little firm with them and tell them go get it. Christine. Yes, of course. Always booze. Gotta have it. Yep. Red in the Valley. She brings up a good point. There are different stores out there. This, of course, is Walmart. But you can find all of these same things under different names. So be aware of that when you're looking for things. She calls one of them Javix, which I think is some sort of a disinfectant. I'd keep an eye out for that. She's been going to her IGAs and Metro store, and she says things where she's at's getting a little slim. So, like I said, these are things that as you go out and you see them, you want to get them while you can. And Barry Fowler, what is the yeast for? Well, Barry, there are two kinds of yeast. One is bad. One is good. One you don't want. One helps things rise. And no, it's not what you're thinking. That's how you get the bad yeast. This is for bread and other baked goods that you need to help rise. And somebody else pointed out that it is for beer as well, and wine and whatever else, which are all things you might be making if SHTF. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it helped you find some things. Sorry my voice is going. I probably should have had some water. That would be a good thing. Maybe I should go pump me some through that water filter over there. Good thought. Anyway, you guys always remember, I love all you guys. I appreciate all your support. Please like, share, and subscribe. And always remember, be safe, secure, and prepared for anything that comes your way. And much love and prayers to you all. And rest in peace, knowing you're prepared.